Howdy, 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 howdy.
Hello.
It's Woody, bitches. Howdy, 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 howdy.
Oh my God. Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Kara.
And we're the Midnight
Babes.
Babes. Woo.
We were very blessed this Christmas.
Yes, we were.
To be a part of Nick Roberts' ARC group, Advanced Reader
Copy.
for his upcoming book, Mean Spirited, which comes out in March.
March 15th, I believe.
Yeah, so get your monies ready.
Yes.
Because you're going to want to buy this book.
It's so good. This is when, every time I read one of his books, it gets progressively better. And this one had me going. My anxiety was up. It was good. It had the spooks that I was wanting.
This gives me, and I've said this about Nick before, but I think he's the Stephen King of our generation.
Oh, yeah.
And this gave me straight up Cujo, Stephen King vibes.
Yeah, but worse.
I've never read something so terrifying.
No.
Like, to this day, I don't think that I've read something as creepy, as, on edge, and as concerned as this book had me.
Yes, especially if you're a pet owner.
You're going to be concerned.
Or you have kids.
Or stuffed animals.
Especially pandas.
Jackson had one.
Ooh.
I actually gave it to Killian. So it's in one of those bags. So when you go through the bags, don't be scared when you see a panda.
You see a damn panda. Because I don't think he has a panda. So that's good to know because that was going to freak me out.
Yep, he's got one now. Okay. So have fun with that. This is a spoiler-free review because the book is not out for everybody. So we obviously don't want to ruin that for you guys. And I will say, even if we were to do a spoiler review, I would not spoil the way Nick Roberts ended this book for anybody. I mean, the flow of the book was great. It's relatable. Yeah. The characters are flawed, but in a way that's relatable.
Yeah.
So, talking a bit about the book without spoilers. This teacher, his name is Matt. He's like a functioning alcoholic. So again, relatable, right?
Yeah.
And he has a student that had passed away, and he ends up getting her dog named Conehead.
Yeah.
And he starts to see some stuff that's happening and feel a certain way. But the main character, the dad, Matt, it's like he's battling with am I drunk?
Yes.
Or did that actually happen? So you're also, as a reader, questioning what is he actually seeing? Yeah. Because he gets the dog Conehead for his son, Mikey.
Because he was like, oh, let me bring it to my wife who's a vet and make
Lucy.
sure that Conehead is all good, yada yada, and then some shit starts to happen
right away. Nick wastes no time.
And how it all kind of pans out, it just gives you this super uneasy feeling throughout the entire book.
Yes, the whole book. I mean, I would be looking up from my Kindle, and I would make eye contact with the dogs, and I would be like,
I am watching.
You're gonna stay there, and you're gonna do nothing. Okay.
It just reminds me of this TikTok of there's this dog. I think it's a Shibu Inu, something like that. And it'll just its head will just go back like it's broken, but that's how their necks are. They can do that. And
this book gives you that kind of vibe.
I'm just waiting for my dog to
no. But so it's interesting, right? He brings, his wife okays the dog even after all the shit that goes down at the vet. Which is that had me on the edge of my seat. I was pissing my pants. And then I actually sent you a TikTok a couple weeks ago of this dog escaping from a veterinary clinic and letting all the other dogs out. And I was terrified. But then I was it's kind of funny because I feel like somebody made this video for Nick.
It's like, I'm going to just let all these other puppers out.
But also terrifying.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got the kid, you've got the dog, you've got Lucy and Matt, the parents. Matt's really struggling with his addiction.
Yeah.
You know, he's trying to return to work. It's just, there are so many strange occurrences. The second he brings this dog in, shit hits the fan. I mean, like, and it doesn't stop. Like, Nick does not let up on that, like, fear that you have for the characters, for the dog, the fear for yourself and your own personal safety and your animal.
It is like all because of this dog coming in, and then if he would have just kept that dog or just been like, hey, give it to the pound, none of this would have happened.
Well, maybe to somebody else.
Well, to somebody else, but not to
their
family. And it sucks because it's, you know, like you mentioned, he is a struggling alcoholic, and then the kid is kind of going back and forth between the divorced parents, and then Lucy, the mom, has a new boyfriend, and so like he gets roped into things. But this kid just wants a dog.
He just wants his dog. He just really wants to have a dog.
Yes.
And the dad wants to give that to him.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. And he's like, okay, like, it's going to make you happy.
And if this was my student's dog that has passed away, and I'm with it, and it's good to go, I guess I'm going to take it.
Yeah. Well, Conehead kind of just, like, ran up on him because it's not a spoiler, like... That's how he gets Conehead. Like, that's the very, very beginning of the book. But he was going through because he keeps all of his students, like, poetry and stuff. And this one student,
she's
really,
very promising student from what we were reading.
Yeah, he kept her, like, poem or story that he wrote. So he framed it and went to drop it off at the house. Like, that is so sweet. So like, sweet. And then that's when Conehead came up, and then everything...
Yeah.
Finds out all stuff.
You know, and while stuff is happening, you've got, you know, the dad, Matt, and his ex, Lucy, and her new partner. They're all trying to figure out what the fuck is going on.
They're like, there has to be a logical reason. No.
Behind all of this. Like,
no, there's not.
Is XYZ happening? Yeah, so they're really trying to, like, expose the dog's past.
Yeah.
Without letting the dog know what they're up to.
Like, you can't listen.
So it is great. I have not read a book that sent me into that fear. I've never had a book where the last fucking 2 sentences on the last page had me go, what?
Yeah.
And then I was like, that was fucked up of you, Nick. But in a right way.
I think, and after reading some of the other reviews that have been put out, I know some people weren't fond of how the book ended, but I loved it.
I did too. Like, that was enough for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you left it just right for me.
Yeah.
I loved it. I enjoyed the ending. I enjoyed the entire book.
Yeah.
If I had to say, because we read this Christmas morning, so this was like a mom Christmas gift. Like, I'm texting her at 7 a.m. on Christmas morning.
I'm like, bitch,
like, before the kids are up, right? I'm like, how do I get this, like, get the link on my Kindle? Because, like, I'm trying to read this, like, right now. Like, screw my kid and the Christmas presents. Sorry, not sorry. But it was terrifying. And the amount of times I was like, oh my God. I mean, the horror, the thriller, you've got like mystery.
Supernatural aspects to it. It had, like, honestly, I think this would be, if they could do it correctly, it would be a great fucking movie.
It would.
Because that's
really
the type
would.
Of, like, creature feature, like, feeling in, like, despair and anxiety. Like, I think it would be a great fucking movie because that's how it plays out in our heads.
Yeah. And, you know, again, to, like, Nick's writing, like, he's not just telling the story. Like, there's emotional depth to his stories. Again, like, the characters being so relatable, and this, like, is throughout all of his books. I just love how relatable they are. It's not some, like, ridiculously perfect character.
No.
They have their flaws, but it's not anything that we've not seen as humans, right?
Yeah.
So to read that in a book makes it so much more realistic for me. But again, like, his stuff in West Virginia, man.
I'm not going to fucking.
I was gonna say I'm not trying to visit after reading his books. Like I'm just not, unless it's to like go to a book signing or something.
I mean, hey.
But other than that,
fucking get
keep
your
me
ass
away.
over here to Nebraska, Nick.
Keep me away.
Do a book signing here.
It was great tension building. He created a great atmosphere for the book. There wasn't a lot of like dull. No. Like there was really no like, oh, I have to like get through this chapter. It was like, I gotta get through this chapter so I know what's going on.
I could not put this book down.
Except for at night. I had to put it down like an hour before I went to bed because it literally had me fucked up. And you're pretty like into the spooks too, and you can normally read them at night. And I remember like texting you, and you're like, I gotta put this down. And I was like, dude, same. I cannot read this at night.
My eyes are just open, and I only have a little night light in the room because of my kid, and you know. No,
based off what we read in the book, we don't want.
I'm looking under my bed.
I'm not looking in the hallway. Yeah, I'm not looking in the ceiling. I'm not looking under my kid's bed. You better hide all those stuffies. I need the dogs crated up or some shit because I can't with that.
Nope, I agree.
If I had to say, like, my favorite book that I read in 2023, this would be my favorite book. I've never read something so emotionally gripping.
I'm going to say that it's my favorite book as far as horror thriller goes. Because I've heard some really good fantasies in 2023. So I can't say it's my favorite, but genre-wise, that is by far my favorite.
In
for
that genre. Yeah. 100%. And
I give it like a solid 5 out of 5.
Same. If I could give it a 10 out of 5,
yeah.
I would. And I read like, the fairy books and like the smut books too. But like, me, I started down the like horror thriller genre. I've always been a Dean Koontz and like a Stephen King fan.
Oh yeah.
So for me, like, this has always been my favorite genre, but I'll read anything. Like, you've really opened up my mind a bit to like, there's other stuff that you can read, and I love that. But when we go back to Nick's books, I'm like put in like it's weird to explain. It's almost like I'm put it back in like my 16-year-old self reading Stephen King for the first time again. Like if you could relive like reading Dreamcatcher for the first time again, or like reading any of Stephen King's like huge books for the first time, that is the feeling I get when I read Nick's books.
Yeah. See, and for me, I don't really see it as Stephen King. I read a few of Stephen King's books, but I've never gotten that feeling.
Nick's more dreadful in my opinion. Like it's more, which is why I'm like, he's our Stephen King of this generation.
I would say for any of the feeling, like for what you're feeling, I think it would have to be when I was in elementary school reading scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yes,
that's what it gives me, because that's how I felt reading those as a kid. But those are the books that really opened me up to my horror love. So that's for me.
Yes, it's like, or
Stephen
Goosebumps,
King.
right?
Oh
it's
my
like,
God,
it
Goosebumps.
throws you back to almost
just
like
R.L.
being
Stein,
a kid.
Fear Street.
Yes, dude.
The Fear Street
I
home
loved
books.
R.L. Stein so much.
Yes.
Like so much. But it puts me in that same like
feeling.
Panic of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening, and I don't get that a lot as an adult.
No, I think the first time I've actually felt like that as an adult was when I was reading Akatar.
Yeah.
Like, I could not put it down. That type of feeling. Like, you have to know what's happening
gotta
next.
Figure it out. You're, like, upset with the author. You're in love with the author. You don't know how you feel about the author based off the ending of the books. Like, I will say, I have a bit of a lady boner for Nick Roberts. And yes, I know you're married and I know you have a family, and I am also married and have a family. But I could have a lady boner for you and your writing, okay?
It's about your writing.
It's about your writing.
It's nothing creepy.
And again, I mean, we are like all about this, and we know that you're currently working on
The Exorcist House Genesis,
and I'm so fucking stoked.
So, I love that fucking book. Oh my God, I can't wait to see more.
Like, if I had to say, like, my top like horror books that I read in 2023, they're all gonna be by Nick. They're all by Nick, and that's where I'm like, I've
read some fun ones, but Nick's books have really kept me on the edge and like wanting more within those universes for sure. So I'm really happy happy that we're getting an additional Exorcist house, because that was our first one that we read from him,
and it
oh my
blew
God.
us out of the water. We were like, where have you been?
Yeah,
where have you been, sir? Like,
thank you TikTok for having you be put on our fucking page, because otherwise we would have never fucking known.
We wouldn't have. And you know, being in like the ARC group, we've been seeing that like Nick was sick there for a while, kind of like when we were. Oh, and he's already banging out pages.
I know.
And I'm like,
I could never.
I'm like, Mean Spirited hasn't even launched for everybody, and you're already working on this next book. Go. Like, I'm like, slow down, but don't, because we also need this book, like ASAP, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, 5 out of 5.
5, yeah.
100%. If you like horror, if you're maybe wanting to like dip your toes into that genre, Nick would be a great author to go to. Mean Spirited was great.
Yeah, because he actually brings like, it's not the typical creature feature. It's not the typical.
He's got his own
splatter
spin.
Punk, like, thing like that.
Yes, he is very, very intentional about how the stories are written, about the character development. It is very intentional from the get-go. It's so clear.
Yep.
And I can appreciate that, just like, because you're sitting down trying to write a novel.
Yeah.
But you already have it like laid out in your head, right? So it was great. I cannot wait to buy the book, because I'm gonna need a copy of it.
Yep.
I just need a copy of it. It's on my Kindle, but I'm gonna read it again.
Oh yeah.
And
it's for the bookshelf.
It is for the bookshelf.
There are some, because there are definitely some that I have on my Kindle where I'm like, I don't need this on my bookshelf. Like, as much as I love physical books and I want to fill my bookshelf, with those, I want them to be ones that I'm
gonna go back and reread. Yeah, if
my Kindle's dead, I will pick up my physical book.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, well, I'll let that charge, and I'm gonna read the actual book. But yeah, I mean, this is something I would go back and read again.
Oh yeah. I bet you anything we're missing some things.
I know, well, because we read it Christmas Day, right? Yeah. And like the next day, and it's been almost a month, so I can almost guarantee he snuck some little linky links in there between his other books that we may have missed.
Yeah.
But it's spoiler free. But I'm maybe going to go back and reread the book after this. Probably. Because it was that good. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, ooh, I want to go back and reread it, but like Crescent City too.
I know. We're stuck on the Crescent City books right now because the third one drops on the 30th.
Yeah, so we are just hauling ass.
Oh my God.
Crescent City.
And that's a whole nother fucking episode.
We will have to, like, we never really touched on the ACOTAR books. We kind of missed the window there, right?
Yeah.
But we read them. So
I've read them at least now 9-10 times. They're my go-to books. If I want to read something but I can't choose, I just pick up the fucking ACOTAR series again. Like, it just, every time I read it, it gives me that good feeling. So.
Yeah, and we kind of like missed the window there, but like Crescent City, we will definitely review these two. Because we already read the first one. We both read it in like a week.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, get me through this book.
We're reading the second one right now. And then we're
gonna go get the third one.
So we'll be in that window to fucking review.
But if you guys ever have, book suggestions, smut or horror, we will review them. We'll read them and review them.
We're not, was it nonfiction?
Yeah.
We're not nonfiction girlies, really. You are more than me.
Yeah, I can be. I just, like, the mood has to striketh. The mood has to striketh me righteth. But no, you're right. Typically, I'm more in like the horror smut genre. I can get into some fantasy too, and some sci-fi. I'm getting more
into fantasy.
But yeah, I mean, you give me fiction, I'm kind of like,
Or nonfiction? Fiction. I fucking mix those up all the time. The ones that are like memoirs. What the fuck is that?
Hey Siri. What's fiction mean?
Fiction means literature in the form of prose, especially short stories and novels that describes imaginary events and
okay. So, non-fiction books. I love that we're fairly intelligent women. We've gone to school.
Promise.
We have jobs. But we don't know the difference between fiction and nonfiction today only.
Every fucking time I'm like, is it fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
I don't know. I have to go to the library or go to the bookstore and I look at it. I'm like, nonfiction.
Nonfiction. You're like, right there.
Fiction.
Okay.
What are the books listed here?
We are adults. I promise. We know what's going on some of the time. But that was our non-spoiler review.
Yes.
I hope to do like a further in-depth review once the book is out for everybody to read. Again, just the way it's written, it's not something I want to like ruin for anybody, especially that ending. So hang on to your britches. If you're gonna read that book, hang on.
It's gonna be good.
And maybe start it in the morning and just try to finish it in a day, because you ain't gonna sleep at night in between reading this book.
Hide your panda stuffies is all I'm gonna say.
And hide your dog.
If they hide your dog.
Hide
if they
your dog.
pop up, then get an exorcist.
Yeah, I would be running. Sell your dog.
Get the fuck out.
As my dogs are like outside the door, they're probably like,
The
bitch,
fuck?
what? How dare you? Trading us in for a cone head. No, I'll keep you guys. You sane.
You keep me safe.
You keep me safe. You protect me. Not like Conehead.
No. Well, to an extent.
Depending on like how you want to view that protection. So
yeah,
we'll leave it at that though. Mean Spirited by Nick Roberts. Will be out March 15th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Catch it on Kindle. Catch it on Amazon. Catch it however you want to catch it. So, but read it. It was a great book.
It's so good. So
And then we'll be back with like a review of Saltburn.
Yay!
Not really smutty or like horror, but it was just like a weird ass thriller. So we're gonna review that. And then we did Chantal Tessier's Dark Kingdom series. Yeah. And that's 5 different books. So we'll split those up. And if you guys ever have suggestions, DM us. Yeah, find us on Instagram, TikTok, and you can watch this anywhere you can absorb your podcasts.
And YouTube,
Apple, Spotify,
iHeartRadio, Google, I think.
There's so many.
I don't know. I put it into the system and it just sends it.
We're just like, route it everywhere.
But follow us on Insta and on TikTok. We're mostly on TikTok. We do have a Storygraph and a Goodreads that I do need to update.
Yes. So you can follow along with us and read with us if you want.
Yeah, but really, like, if you can just follow us, that'd be great. And
that would be awesome.
We got a really nice YouTube comment the other day, so it made me, like, super happy.
It does.
It makes my fucking day.
Even, those little things of just being, like, like, it's nice hearing, like, 2 moms, just, like, chit-chat about books. Like, that kind of makes our day.
Yeah.
Like, we're also moms that work full-time,
this
right?
Is what we do.
And this is what we get to do in our spare time. So, like, any love or following, it's so appreciated. You know? Anybody that's, like, here to listen, we appreciate it.
Yeah,
and
come join our little mom club.
And, if you laughed, I'm glad I could help.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't forget to drink water, take your meds, and have some food today.
Yeah, I should probably get some water.
That wasn't for you. That was for the listeners.
I'm like, speaking of.
All right. We'll see you next Thursday. Yes. Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to see more from us, you can find us on Instagram at The Midnight Babes Podcast and on TikTok at The Midnight Babes. Stay spooky, friends.